Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? Well, it is currently 2:39 a.m. on this beautiful, muggy, I think it's almost a full moon. Looks like it's almost a full moon. Thursday evening going into Friday morning. It is currently 67 degrees outside. Tomorrow is supposed to be a warm and sultry 86 degrees. Partial cloud coverage. Maybe it'll be a day that I can go to the pool for a little bit. Maybe even just an hour. We'll see. And yeah, today has been a really, really good day. I got up and did some stuff around the house. And then I went and got my coffee at Starbucks and did a review video. I'm using this pineapple cup today. I love this cup. It's so pretty. Valerie said I should use a different cup every single day because she was like, you have so many cups, why don't you just use a different one every day? So I'm trying to. I actually have my leftover coffee. I have about probably a third of it left. And then I have Alex's, the rest of his Red Bull, because we got Red Bulls on the way downtown tonight to go see Deadmau5. I got coconut and he got sugar-free, and I drank mine already. So, yeah, so what did I do today? I went and I got my coffee and did the review, and then I got stuck in traffic because I left the house late. So I was literally in like quitting hour traffic. And I went to Target and I wanted to buy a t-shirt to wear for tonight, which I did. I ended up getting this black t-shirt. I literally have probably, I mean, no lie, I probably have like 30 or 40 of these, just like black, like pocket tees by Goodfellows from Target. And, but I also bought like a gray, kind of like you know, kind of distressed, what's that called? You know, like we used to do it to jeans back in the day. Like, I can't remember what that word is called, but you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's like a black t-shirt, but it's kind of like faded to stonewashed. It kind of looks like a stonewashed t-shirt, you know what I mean? But it's black and now it's kind of grayish looking. I was gonna wear that tonight, but I didn't end up wearing that. And then I bought, and that was on sale, and I bought 2 tie-dye t-shirts that were on sale. Each of my t-shirts were $10 that I got, and I got 4 of them. The tie-dye shirts are really pretty, and I love tie-dye, and I used to have a lot of it back in the day, and I have like still all of my like old Grateful Dead t-shirts and stuff like that, but these are like really soft, and they're kind of like pale yellows and light blues and pinks, and I think maybe there's like a pale kind of tangerine-ish orange in there. They're really pretty. So with like a pair of khaki shorts or something, I thought that they would look nice to like go out to dinner or something. Do you always do that? Do you always think like, I don't know that I used to do that back in the day, but as I've gotten older, I always think of like what things will look nice together with, you know, well, this will look nice with a pair of khaki shorts and, you know, a pair of Birkenstocks or boat shoes or something. I always like think through all that stuff, you know. So by the time I came home, it was kind of late, and I was super tired. I stayed up way late last night, like sun come up late. Sun come up late. Like when the sun was coming up was when I was going to bed last night. I drove around and I listened to the Misfortune book for a while last night, and I'm just loving it. I love it so much. And I'm trying not to listen to it real fast because I just kind of want to absorb it because I don't know when her next one's going to be out. And so I listened to that, and then I got home and I was hungry, so I ate some pita chips and hummus, and I had my leftover lo mein and fried rice. And then while I was eating that, I was watching Legendary. So then when it was over, I was like, I want to watch another episode of Legendary because I'm so into it now. And it's towards the end of the season. This is the second season of Legendary. And so I watched the the second season, or I watched the 6th episode. I have 2 episodes left. I have the 9th episode and then the finale. So I must have watched 7th and 8th episodes. And one of my favorite groups, or one of my favorite houses, got kicked off. I was really sad about that. So, but it's down to the wire. So there's like 3 left, I think. I think there's 3 houses left, and then it'll be down to 2. So anyway, watched that, and then I went to bed. I almost like was gonna watch another episode, and I was like, Peter, you need to go to bed or you're gonna sleep the entire day. Which I actually didn't sleep the entire day, and that's why I was kind of like super, super tired all day. So when I got back from Target, I fed the dogs, and I started like uploading my review video and getting my other videos. Like I think I posted them then, like the vlog and my Peterism. Oh, I filmed a Peterisms video yesterday, but by the time that it would have got up, it would have been too late, because I went and got a fountain pop with Tanya. So I just was like, I'm not going to post it. So I posted it, or I wasn't going to post it yesterday, so I posted it today. And yeah, that was it. So so when I came home, Alex had to work till like 8:30 tonight. And so, well, 8 o'clock, and he was going to get home at like 8:30. And then our plan was to leave to go downtown to go see Dead Mouse. We were meeting up with Melissa and Jason and Aaron and Eric at like 10 o'clock. So we were going to leave between like 9 and 9:30 to get downtown. And I texted Alex, and I was like, I have to lay down for a little bit. I'm so tired. And so he was like, okay. So I fed the dogs, and then they came upstairs, and we took a nap for like an hour. And Alex came in the house. I didn't even hear him come inside. The dog started barking. I was like, I didn't even hear him come in the house. I was so out. And so he came upstairs, and I was like, I'm gonna lay down for just like another half an hour. And he was like, okay, babe. So I laid down for like another half an hour, and then I got up and I took a shower, and we both got dressed, and then we went downtown, and 2 of his really close friends. Oh, did I bring it? Do I have it? Oh, no, I took it inside the house. 2 of his really close friends, the girl that he just went to Miami with, and another friend of his, they met us out as well. And she gave me a birthday present, and she gave me a fan that says Daddy on it. So I was like flipping that and stuff. I had a good time. It was really fun. And I hung out with Melissa most of the night. Jason was kind of just like standing there watching the whole thing, and then our friends Aaron and Eric were kind of like just like dancing and watching the whole thing. And Jason's like so into it, because I don't know if I've talked about this, but Jason was like in a band in college. He's like in a pretty famous band here in Indianapolis, and they toured nationally and stuff like that. And so he plays keyboards, and Jason does a lot of like DJing stuff on it for himself, because he just enjoys it. So he can literally sit there and listen to like set after DJ, and it's like all technical for him. Like he loves to listen to like the technical quality. Because we gave him a ride home tonight, because Melissa left before we did, because she wanted to go home for the dogs. And so she was like, can you take Jason home? And I was like, yeah, no problem. So she left about 45 minutes before we did. And so the whole way home, Jason was like talking about like all the technicality of like Dead Mouse. And he had taken like a master class that Dead Mouse like taught online or something. And he was telling us how incredible it was. And so Jason loves all that stuff. And then I saw a bunch of people. We were like in a VIP section. And the place that it was, our good friends own it, and they own some bars downtown, and then they own the place that the concert was at too. And so they're always really nice, and they give us like a section to like stand in and sit in and stuff like that, which is nice for me, because at some point I like to like sit down, you know, and they have like little couches up there and stuff. But anyway, so I saw a bunch of people I hadn't seen in a long time. I was telling Alex this on the way home. It's like, I enjoy going out every once in a while, but like, honest to God, I probably saw 20 of the same people that the last time that I was out, I saw the same 20 people. And, you know, they're all like, oh, how did you get him to come out? And blah, 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 whatever, joking about me going out, because I never go out anymore, you know? And, I was like, oh my God, they still go out like all the time. And some of these people are like older than me. And I'm like, you go out like 3 to 4 nights a week. Like still, like, what? I don't know. Like, I mean, even my husband has slowed down quite a bit, you know what I mean? And I never thought he would. And it's just like, and we were talking about it on the way home, and Alex is like, yeah, I still love going out and stuff like that. He's like, but like, unless it's for like a really good DJ or whatever, he's like, the days of just like going out and hanging out in a bar are just not like the same as they used to be. And I'm like, right? It gets kind of old after a while. I mean, it was good seeing people and stuff like that. But the other thing is like what I realized, because all these people were like, so what have you been up to? Like, what's been going on? I'm like, you mean in the 5 years that I haven't seen you? Or the 4 years I haven't seen you? You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, not much. Just, hanging out, just day to day. And they're like, oh, good, And what I realized is like all of these years that I went out for so long, I like spent all this time, like we have quite a few really good friends that we've made from going out. Like Melissa and Jason, we met at our friend's bar. Like we would never have known Melissa and Jason had we not been out that night, and we have quite a few other friends that like, friends of ours, another couple that was like in our anniversary, or was in our wedding, it was just their anniversary this weekend. We met them going out, there's another couple that we met from going out. We have quite a few friends from going out. So I'm not saying that it's like all of that over, but there's a lot of people that I would spend just like forever just standing there talking, and I'd always be like, to Alex, I can remember back in the day, this was when I wasn't going to meetings and stuff, and we were going out literally like 4 or 5 nights a week. And I'd be like, who's going out tonight? And he'd be like, well, I talked to so-and-so, and so-and-so's going out, and so-and-so texted and said they're going to go out. And I'm like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so is so-and-so going out? And it was like this check-in of the same 20 people that I really didn't even know what was going on in their personal lives, and we all hung out at the bars and did after parties and stuff like that, and we all hung out together, and there was a good 20 of us that all hung out together. But like with the exception of just a few of them, like I haven't really talked to any of those people, and Alex doesn't really talk to a lot of them either. And so it's funny to go out and they're like, hey, it's so good to see you, it's been so long. And I'm like, I've been alive, like my phone's been on, like you could call me or I could have called you, like maybe we just really weren't that invested in each other, because the thing that was shared was the commonality of the bar, of going out. The other thing I realized tonight, I don't really, like Melissa doesn't drink, and she doesn't drink because she just chooses not to drink. It's not because she's sober or anything like that. And, everybody else that I'm with, like, just doesn't really drink a whole lot. And so it's weird because I'm seeing other people around me, and there were, like, some people that, like my age group that are, like, totally tanked on a Thursday night at Dead Mouse. And I'm like, do you have to work tomorrow? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's a different world. It's a different world. But I had a good time. And another one of our friends, she came as well. And then, like, the 2 friends of Alex's I saw. And I saw a couple people that it was really good to see. Back in the day when Alex and I used to go out a lot, this is one of the things I do miss. When Alex and I used to go out a lot back in the day, before I stopped going out as much because I went, started going to meetings again and all that stuff, was that Alex and I knew a lot of like the industry people, because we were like, that's a lot of what we helped promote, with stuff like that. So like the door guys and the bouncers and the bartenders and all that kind of stuff, like those were the people that like we knew and hung out with. And so I saw a couple of them tonight, and they're not doing that anymore. They've like, they do different stuff now, and it's been 10 years and whatever, and a lot of them are married or engaged. One of them was engaged tonight, and it was really good seeing them because, you know, back in the day, they were always the ones that were sober, so I'd be standing there talking to them, you know, and stuff like that, and, well, they weren't sober, but I mean, they weren't drinking, you know, so I'd stand, you know, there and talk to, like, the door guys outside while I was smoking a cigarette or whatever, you know. They were always so nice. It was a different era. It really was. Like, I mean, back in the day when Alex and I were going out a lot, like, I had a lot of fun going out. A lot of it was like, I feel like a lot of it was maybe deflection of, like, not really wanting to, like, work on myself or anything else, probably, you know. But, like, we had a lot of fun those first couple years, you know, we really did. It's like, we'd go after work or whatever and go work out, and then we'd take naps and, you know, have a little romantical evening, and then we would, like, you know, get ready to go out, and then we'd, go out, we'd eat Steak and Shake on the way home, and come home and go to bed and start the whole thing over the next day. And that was kind of like Wednesday through Sunday for us, you know. Sunday was always like watching movies, watching videos, going to the movie theater, or we would like we would go to Walmart. I remember this. So we would go to Walmart like on Sundays, and because it was cheaper, and that was when we were trying to save a bunch of money, it was cheaper to buy movies at Walmart that had just come out on DVD and Redbox never had the movies that we wanted to see because they always took like a month later to come out. Back then, I don't know if that's changed now. But we would like go to Walmart, and like on a Sunday, we would buy like 3 movies that had just come out that were like $14.99 or something like that, right? And it was cheaper than actually going to the movie theater to buy 3 movies. And then I remember we would go to Walmart and we would buy like 3 movies. I don't know why I always remember us buying this movie, but like one of the times that we did this was called We Bought a Zoo. That one with Matt, I think it's Matt Damon. Anyway, maybe it's not Matt Damon. Who's that guy? Why can't I think of who it is? But anyway, we would buy like mystery movies and whatever, you know, and thriller. We would buy whatever was new that we wanted to see. A lot of horror, scary movies, and then and then we would buy those tubs of movie popcorn that you just put in the microwave, and it's like you have your own like movie popcorn. And then we would get, you know, like sodas and candy and whatever, and it was cheaper. And then we, you know, for like, I feel like the movies were like 3 for $2 or something like that. But anyway, and we would get like pizza at Papa John's, and then we would just sit upstairs in bed. And I can remember like we'd open the windows when it was like, you know, fall and summer outside, and Boo and Tucker and Pee-Pee would like lay right there on, you know, on the bed and the end of the bed, and we would just sit there and we would eat pizza and eat treats. And on Sundays, and that was our Sundays, we would just watch movie after movie. It was fun. It was nice. And at some point that kind of started getting replaced by brunch. We must have, or maybe we did brunch before all that. We've been doing brunch for a long time, every Sunday. But you know, like Wednesday nights, we would go out to, what was Wednesdays? There was this bar in Broad Ripple that we would go to sometimes. There was also this bar on the north side. I can't remember what it was called. Blue something, but they had like a thing on Wednesday nights that we would go to sometimes. And then there were drag shows on Wednesday nights that we would go to a lot. And then Thursday nights would start with salsa dancing at the Jazz Kitchen in Broad Ripple. And then we would go there to like some of the bars in Broad Ripple. I look back on this and I think to myself, I was like 36 to 40 when I was like doing all this. Which, I mean, isn't really that old, but like I was definitely like You know what's weird is like a lot of our friends that we met at that time are like older than me. Just so funny to me. And they were like actively going out a lot, you know? I guess it doesn't have an age limit on it. The Thursday nights were salsa night at the Jazz Kitchen. And then we would go downtown somewhere. I can't remember where we went. Oh, we went to this bar, OP's, this gay bar downtown. Oh, no. We would go to the 10, which was the lesbian bar, but on Thursday nights they had, it was like gay guy night on Thursday nights, and they did like 50% off drinks or something like that. Oh my God, that was so much fun back in the day. Oh, I loved the 10. We had so much fun there. And then Friday nights, we would always start Friday and Saturday nights off at this gay bar called Talbot Street, which is no longer, it doesn't exist anymore. But it was a really fun nightclub. And they had drag shows and stuff, and we would go there. It's actually the first place I ever saw Alex. And we would go there and watch the drag shows and hang out and see our friends and whatever. And then we would go to the straight bars and meet up with all of our friends, those bars downtown. And that was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Sunday was like we rested, you know? We did that like every week, you guys, for like 2 years. Probably longer than that. I mean, and of course there was variation to what we did. You know, it wasn't like we did the exact same thing every week. I mean, there was variation to that. But that was pretty typical what we would do most weeks, you know? And Fridays and Saturdays would be like going to buy outfits for the weekend and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. It was fun for a while, you know? It really was. And then, is the applicator broken on this? No. And then, you know, when I kind of had my, I wouldn't say breakdown. No, I would say that, actually. I don't want to minimize that. When I had my breakdown in the kitchen, and I was sitting there and I was making a list, you know, our marriage was falling apart, and all we really had was a social life together, and we really weren't connected. It's why it's interesting to me sometimes when people are like, oh, you guys don't even spend that much time together. We spend a lot of time together, first of all, we do. But we spent every second together back then. Like, every second. And it was so, like, we were so enmeshed. It was so unhealthy. I don't know that we knew where one of us started and the other one ended. Like, I don't really, you know, it was too much. We didn't have any of our independence. We didn't have our own likes, or, you know, it was just like, we just were together all the time. And, I don't love the word smothering, but I definitely didn't feel like I had my own identity, and I know Alex didn't feel like he had his, and it just really wasn't healthy, you know, and we just really weren't happy, and there just was so much, you know. And then on top of that, I'm not going to meetings. I'm not really working with my sponsor. I'm talking to my sponsor like once a month, maybe, you know. The only connection I have to recovery at that point is Tanya. And I always knew I needed to be in meetings. Like, I always knew. I was never like the person that said, like, I don't need meetings anymore. Like, I knew I needed meetings. I knew I needed to be working the program of recovery. I knew that I needed to be in the rooms of recovery. I was really terrified to go back. Because, like, you know, I've talked about it a million times, I have social anxiety, and I just was afraid to, like, walk through the door again, you know, and, like, and be so honest that I knew if I was going to go back, I was going to have to say, I stepped away for 4 years, you know, and everybody was going to be like, did you use? No, I didn't use. And one of the things was, like, Tanya would say to me, she'd say, I don't know how you go out the way you do and you don't drink. She's like, I don't know how, like, if I was out in that all the time like you are, like, I would probably drink. She's like, I don't know how you do it. And then it made me wonder, like, what's going on with me that, like, and that was like the one thing that I held on to. Like everybody that I went out with and everybody that I was friends with, bar friends with or whatever, like they all knew that I was sober. Like I was, you know, like everybody knew I was sober, but I wasn't doing anything to hold on to my sobriety. You know, I was a dry drunk and I was miserable inside, and I had no emotional sobriety. I had no spiritual foundation in my life whatsoever. You know, I wasn't talking gratitude and prayer and all. I mean, I wasn't. I was bitter and angry. And I think there was a part of me that felt like if I wasn't going out, then I wouldn't be able to hold on to this marriage. That like Alex met me going out, and he loved me. And this is important for whoever you are. Not if you're going out or whatever, but whatever marriage or relationship you're in, okay? This is, I think, really important. I was really afraid that if I stopped being the fun Peter that was going out to bars and standing by him and dancing till 4 o'clock in the morning and staying the duration and, you know, all that he would not want to be with me anymore. That he'd be like, oh, this guy's old, he's not what I, you know, thought he was, and blah, 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 whatever, you know? And that terrified me. That terrified me, A, to admit that I couldn't keep up, and that I didn't want to keep up, and B, it terrified me because I was afraid that I was going to lose my husband, okay? And the reason I say that this is really important in talking about marriage or relationships and stuff like that is because that should not be definitive of your marriage, okay? Like, if I am no longer interested in this thing that we have in common anymore, then that means that they're gonna not want to be with me. Like, okay, we bowl together or we do this together. You have a right to change who you are. You have a right to change, okay? You know, in a relationship. Don't try to change the other person. That's pointless, okay? And you shouldn't want to do that anyway. And feel like you can become who you want to become. I think one of the greatest things that ever happened to us as far as marriage counseling was that we learned that this freedom of we could both become who we wanted to become, and the other person would like embrace that and love it, you know? It was like, I just downloaded the song We Wear It Well by RuPaul, and it has the tracks from like the top 3 of Canada's Drag Race on it. And so I was singing it on the way down, and I was like acting out all these moves and being real funny and stuff, and I looked over and Alex was like laughing at me. And that makes me so happy when I look at him and he genuinely finds something that I do funny. Whether it's me being silly or not, I don't really care, okay? It makes me happy to know that my husband finds me funny sometimes. Because for so long, I was so concerned with being what I thought he wanted me to be, instead of, like, what I know today is that when I am being who I want to be and who I am inside, my husband loves that person the most, you know? And I love him the most when he is in his element and he's the happiest and all that kind of stuff, right? But I don't have to be right there by his side and love all those things. And I think we're so afraid of that, you know? It's so afraid of like, well, what if we have different interests or whatever? What if we have this, you know? My husband and I have so many different interests, you know? Tomorrow, if my husband could, you know, retire and go to a music festival every day of his entire life, he would. Not me. You know what I mean? That's not me. And he doesn't like to read, and I would read every day for the rest of my life if I could, and that's okay. And you know what's so funny is, like, when we go out to brunch and stuff like that, like, Alex will talk to me about some music festival, and I'll be like, oh, tell me. He's like, yeah, I was watching this music festival last night, and blah, 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 and it was on YouTube, and they're doing a live stream of it, and whatever, and he'll tell me all about it, and I'll be like, oh, no, I've never heard of that person before, and he'll, like, send me a bunch of songs to check out, and whatever, you know? And then, like, I'll tell him, like, I was telling him about Final Girl Support Group the other night by, Grady Hendrix, and like the next day we were talking, he was like, that book that you were telling me about would make a really great movie. And I was like, yeah, it really would. I wish it would. You know, and I think that's part of it, is like that's what keeps, I think, when people ask you, like, what keeps a relationship exciting, what keeps the passion alive, allow the other person to continue to change and grow in the relationship. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of them changing and growing away from me. Just realize they're going to change and grow, and you're going to change and grow, and continue to fall in love with that new person over. It stopped. And continue to fall in love with that new person over and over and over again. That's what I think makes it all exciting. But, I mean, it's not going to be, like, perfect all the time, And you're not going to always... I mean, sometimes Alex talks about stuff that I could care less about, in all honesty, And I'm sure a lot of times I've talked to him about stuff that he could care less about. But, that's part of marriage, is it's courtesy. You listen to the other person and what they get excited about. And sometimes I love to hear it, and other times, it's just whatever. And I think that that's part of marriage, and not being afraid of allowing that person to grow. I mean, it's really not up to you anyway, but, I think that sometimes, like, the reality is, a big part of me, like, back in the day, I didn't want to go out all the time anymore. Now, I'd go out every once in a while and be okay with that, like I do now, but I didn't want to go out as much anymore. And I was afraid that if I didn't continue to go out, then I was going to lose Alex, like I just said. Well, what is that? That's an unfulfilled expectation, okay? When I want my husband to accept me for what I want to do, but I feel like I have to do something else, that's an unfulfilled expectation. And what's the word for that? Resentments. Resentments are not healthy for people in recovery. And I started getting real resentful, I did. I'm going out. I wouldn't say it, but I was like, I'm going out for you. In my head, I'd think it, I'm going out for you. Oh, you want to stay for, another half an hour? Okay, I guess I'll do that for you. For you. That's the victim martyr mentality, and that's not healthy in any kind of relationship, It was so funny tonight because Melissa asked me, she was like, can you take Jason home? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so, she was like, how late are you guys going to stay? And I said, well, I told Alex I would stay until Dead Mouse was done, because Dead Mouse was supposed to be done between like 11:30 and 12. And she's like, well, Dead Mouse is done at 12:15. And I looked at my watch and it was like 11:20, and I was like, that's fine. I mean, I wasn't in any hurry to get out of there anyway. It was like, it still felt pretty early to me. Now it's funny because I don't really ever go out anymore. So I'm not like in a rush to get out of there, but I also don't want to stay till 3 or 4, you know what I mean? But I'm also kind of like, well, I did get out. I did take a shower and try to like look cute a little bit, like let's maybe have some fun a little bit. But anyway, so I told her, I said, yeah, totally fine. Like, we'll stay as, I said, because I said, Jason wants to stay till the end, doesn't he? And she's like, oh yeah, he wants to stay till the very end. And I said, well, Alex does too. So yeah, don't worry about it. I'll make sure, he gets home and stuff like that. So, as soon as it was done, it was so funny. It was cute, because Jason was like, I think he's going to come back for an encore. And he was like standing there, and I was like, Jason, all the lights are on. I think it's over. And he was like, no, I think he's going to come back for an encore. He didn't come back for an encore. He should have. The place was packed. And so anyway, we were like walking out and stuff like that. But, it's like, back in the day... Oh, this is what I was going to say. Like, Alex came over because he had gotten like a beer and he had gotten me like a Red Bull. And so he was like, I'm closing down I asked her for my card. I'm going to close down my tab. And I said, okay. And that was like right after Melissa left. And he was like, we can go when you want to. It was like 11:30. It was like 10 minutes later after she left, because she left with Aaron and Eric. And I said, well, babe, I told you I would stay until he was done. I said, I'm not in any hurry, and Jason wants to see the end of it anyway. And he was like, oh, okay. But he was like totally like, and that's just been a lot of like us having to work on communication and stuff. But had I said, okay, I'm ready to go, he would have gone, Or he would have said, well, I want to stay a little while, do you care? And I would have said no, and he would have taken an Uber home. Back in the day, I would have been like, oh, no, if you're going to stay, I'm going to stay, That's not healthy. So... But anyway, we had a good time tonight. We were on our way downtown. He was like, you look so good. And I was like, thank you. He was like, you look sexy. I was like, me? in this little black shirt. Me in this little black shirt and my black skinny jeans on my not skinny body. Me, I look sexy. Okay, well, I'll take that. Thank you very much. Flatbread pizza at Panera. I want to review this Plantarino Plantaroni pizza at Little Caesars. Somebody commented on my review channel. They don't have it here. They have it like in Oregon and Miami and New York and somewhere else. But it's like plant-based pepperoni. I think that would be fun to try though. They don't have it here though. Anyway. I was starting to talk about like when I came back in, when I had like my breakdown. I really did have a breakdown. You know, we would go out on the weekends. And then when we weren't going out, I was so bitter. I would sit on the front porch and I would play solitaire on my phone. And just drink coffee and just was wired and, you know, just not happy at all. And Alex knew it too. Like, he could tell. And he didn't know what to do about it. He said something to me at one point. He said something like, this was actually a couple months before, was it? I don't really remember when it happened, but he came outside. I was sitting out there, and it was cold too. Now, I know January was when I came back into the rooms, and it was like blizzard condition the night that I came back to my meeting, but he came outside. I bet it was like probably November, because it was a good 3 months that I sat outside on that front porch on that glider and just back and forth solitaire on that damn phone every single day. And he'd come home, you know, from work or whatever, and he'd watch TV, and he'd come out and check on me. I mean, I would sit out there, you guys. I was so unhappy. And that's why I say I was a dry drunk. Like, dry drunk is basically like, you've taken the alcohol and the drugs away, but you're still, like, nothing's changed. And in all honesty, I probably should have been using, because I was so miserable that it was like, I really didn't feel like I had much of a purpose to live at that point, which is really sad. Like, I didn't feel like I was gonna like hurt myself, but I just really got up every single day and just went through the motions. And I was like, every day I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And that's why I always try to instill hope in people that, like, it can change like that for you, like that. You don't even know when it's gonna change, and it can change for you. I can't snap that finger tonight, but it can change for you like that, you know, that 1 second you're like living this day in and this day out of like, what's the point? Like, there's no reason for me to even get up and keep on going on. And then one day it's like, boom, your life changes. And you just like see things in a completely different way, right? And that's why you can never give up. Because that happened to me. Because I was so miserable. And I was sitting outside. Our marriage was a sham. It had fallen apart. He didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. You know, I don't even know why we stayed together. I really don't. And I was sitting out there. I didn't want to be inside with him. You know, and I wasn't really being honest with Tanya or my sponsor. I didn't hardly ever talk to my sponsor at that point, but like once a month, you know. I mean, I saw Tanya, but I wasn't like telling her, like, I would say things to Tanya like, yeah, we're not in a great place, but I wouldn't like get into details with her about it like I would now. She knew though. And I can see it in my head. It was cold outside. It must have been late fall. I had a coat on and I was sitting out there, and Alex came out and he stood in like the glass, because we have like this glass pane door, like a screen door, but it's glass, and then you open it and then it's like the front door. And so he stood there behind the glass and he just looked at me for a second, like, and he just had the saddest eyes. And he opened the door, and I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said something like, "What can I do?" And I was like, "You can't do anything." And he was like, "I will do anything that you want me to do to help fix this. But I can't continue to live day in and day out like this, just watching you just like be miserable and fade away." He was like, I just can't continue to watch this." That was the first time that he said something about counseling. And I was like, I don't need counseling. I said, I don't need counseling. Maybe you need counseling, but I don't need counseling. But at the same time, like, I don't know if you've ever been here before, but like, I was so like not willing to do anything to save my relationship, but at the same time terrified that my relationship was going to fall apart. And I was almost kind of like, let this be the last thing that falls apart for me in my life, and then I can be like, see, there's no God, there's no nothing out there, nobody cares about me, even Alex left, see, life sucks, right? I think I was kind of like waiting, like, I don't know, like I wasn't willing to do anything to fix the marriage, that's for damn sure. And then day in and day out, and then in in January, that just sounded like I whistled. I can't whistle. I've never been able to whistle. Isn't that funny? Little unknown fact that not a lot of people know about me. I also couldn't snap until I came out, and that's a true story. Like literally like the week I came out, I started being able to snap. Z formation. Isn't that so funny? That January, it was like the middle of January, it was snowing outside, it was horrible weather, it was a Tuesday, because Tuesday night's our home group, and I was standing in the kitchen at the island, and I was making a list. And it was like, vacuum the carpet, because we didn't have wood floors, and we had, did we then? Maybe vacuum the stairs or something, but I know vacuum was on there. Fold laundry, make beds or something. I got down to like 3 or 4, and I just lost it. I mean, I literally have been for months like a walking zombie. Like an absolute walking zombie. And even when I would go out like on the weekends, because we were still going out on weekends and stuff like that, I would just like, I would get like a Red Bull and I would sit in the corner, because we would always get a section, and so I would just sit in the corner of the section. People come up and sit and talk to me. You never smile. They always said that to me. You never smile. This one guy said this to me tonight, I hadn't seen him forever. He goes, "You still don't smile." I said, "Give me something to smile about." That's what I said to him tonight, and I started to laugh. I said, "It's good to see you." But anyway, but I was bitter. I was angry, you know, and so I'd suit up, babe. Baby, I'd suit up and sit in that section with a Red Bull, and I'd be there to be like 11:30, and I'd be like, "Is it time to go yet?" And there we'd be till 4 o'clock in the morning. I was so over it. But anyway, so I remember that day. And you know, today it's funny because I love snow. Like, I don't love it when it's like impossible to drive in it and stuff, but I think it's so pretty and peaceful and serene, you know? The Peter that you're hearing in this car right now, I mean, I don't really know how to explain this to you guys in any kind of way other than for you just to say, like, I mean, I don't really... The Peter you see today is not the Peter that I was. And I'm not being like one of those, like, you know, beauty influencers, like, I don't know who that Peter Monn was. I'm telling you, the Peter today that talks about serenity and peace and gratitude and happiness and small, simple moments was not the person that was living back then. I was bitter, I was jaded, I was angry, I was resentful, I was pissed off at the world, I was miserable, I was mad that my mom was gone, I was pissed that I was in this relationship and I wasn't happy, and I didn't know what to do to fix it, and I wasn't happy in my life, and nothing was fulfilling it. And, you know, it's just like, I would never have had a conversation with somebody and talked about being grateful for something and, you know, like, oh, like the simple things in life. I didn't see things that way. I was bitter. I was angry. I was mad all the time, you know? This is around the time that Alex said to me, I want you to work on being positive I think it was that December actually, and I had given him the picture. Maybe I think it was that Christmas, I don't know. But anyway, I said to him, I took a picture of myself smiling and I said, I'm gonna be, because I said, what do you want for Christmas this year? And he goes, I want you to wake up smiling every single day for the next year. I said, okay. So I worked on being more positive, and it was really hard, you know? I woke up every day feeling like I had a heavy blanket over me, you know? And, God, I think back on that. You know, I talk so much about the years that I was like drinking and drugging and how horrible and stuff it was. But the reality is, it really wasn't as bad as probably the last 2 years before I came back into the rooms. Like, I was like living in a state of misery all the time. And, so anyway, I sat there and looked at that sheet of paper, these like menial things that I had to do. And I thought to myself something like, you can't even hold it together to get this done. Like, you can't even pull it together to vacuum a carpet and do some laundry. And I started crying my eyes out. I was bawling like nobody's business. All this emotion that had been pent up inside of me and been held there, like, just came out like that. Like, I literally just stood there and gripped that island and just bawled and bawled. And I picked up the phone and I called Tanya, and I'll never forget it. And I called her and I said, like, sobbing, I said, will you take me to a meeting, please? And her exact response was, I've been praying for 4 years for you to ask me that. And so that night, she was like, do you want to go to our home group meeting? I was like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm not ready for all of that. And so we went to this club where they have meetings like all the time. And I've told this story so many times on here. But I think it's an important story because I want people to know it's never too late. You know, and I'm not just talking about addiction and recovery. I'm talking about it's never too late to wake up tomorrow and say, tomorrow, today is the beginning of the rest of my life, you know, and I'm going to start being happy, and I'm going to start being grateful, and I'm going to start practicing serenity and peace, and I'm going to I'm going to give back, and I'm going to be of service to others, and I'm going to smile, and I'm going to make gratitude lists, and I'm going to be appreciative for the things that I've been given, no matter how small they are, and I'm going to stop being sad and miserable and upset, you know, and we're here but for a moment, and I'm going to do the best that I can on a daily basis, and if I have to fake it till I make it, I'm going to do that, but I deserve to have a great life, because you do. You do. Each and every one of you do. And see, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I thought that was my own personal hell I was living in, you know? So that night, Tanya and I were just telling this story not too long ago to somebody. So that night we ended up going to this club, and it was like horrible snow outside. And there was only like 5 of us at this meeting. And one of the other women that were there, this girl, she was like this girl that I had known from before. And she had been gone about the same amount of time as I had. She had actually, like, I can't remember if she picked up and she'd gone back out or not, but I can't remember. Maybe she didn't. Anyway. I don't see her really that much anymore, but I did see her for a long time around that point. I just actually, she was with a friend of mine for my friend's birthday. So anyway, it was so weird because I saw her and I was like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And she's like, it's so good to see you too. And she's like, I haven't been to a meeting in 4 years. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't either. And so that was the meeting topic that night. And I remember after the meeting, I went back, I took Tanya home, and we we walked inside, and I was like saying hi to her husband Eric and stuff, and then Tanya was like, I said, oh, I'm gonna go to a noon tomorrow, I think, because I knew there was a noon at this club, because I had gotten a meeting program. I don't know if I showed, I think I showed this the other day. I just got a brand new one. So we have these little books that look like this, and they have meetings for every day of the week, and you can also look them up online. So I was like, I think I'm gonna go to a meeting tomorrow at noon. Do you wanna go with me? I think I said something like, I really would appreciate it if you go with me tomorrow, or something like that. And Tanya said, you know, sweetie, she said, now, I have been going to meetings for the 4 years that you've been gone. So I don't need to go tomorrow, because I went tonight, but you'll be fine going by yourself, and I think it would be really good for you to go tomorrow. And I was like, okay. So I went to a meeting the next day, and that's a whole other story, but, because before I stopped, well, I can tell it tonight, I guess. Before I stopped going to meetings, I was kind of looking for a reason to not go anymore, and there was this guy that I kind of got into it with, and he ended up sitting right next to me at the meeting the next day. And he looked at me halfway through the meeting, and he goes, I think I owe you an amends. And I said, I think I owe you an amends. And he had gone back out and used and almost died. And he came back in, and he had like 18 months or something like that, and we talked, and he was like, I was one angry SOB, and he's one of my dearest friends today, you know? And I used him as an excuse to not go to meetings. And it really had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with me. But that night, after I dropped off Tanya, you can listen, there are leads that you can listen to online. A lead is when somebody tells their story. And I listened to this girl's lead. I don't know, it is a God moment that I just happened to fall upon this girl's lead. And she had gotten sober young like I had. And she was talking about, like, what made her recovery program solid was, that she stayed in the middle. And she was like, it's hard, and I'll never forget when I heard her say this. She's talking about staying in the middle of being part of service and working with your sponsor and reading the text and going to meetings and hanging out with other people. That's what we call it, fellowshipping in the program. And she said, it's hard to fall off the wagon when you're sitting in the middle of it. And I was like, damn. Because see, before I even like stepped away from meetings and going to, not just meetings are not a program, okay? Before I stepped away from working the program of recovery, I had not been really super active anyway. I was only going to one meeting a week. And we always say it's hard to step away from one meeting, because if you're going to only one meeting and you don't go to that meeting anymore, you're going to no meetings, right? So we recommend you go to more meetings than that in a week. I was only going to one meeting a week. I wasn't sharing in the meeting. I wasn't really talking in the meeting. And it was my home group meeting now, which now I know everybody, I'm super active, whatever. People today are like, I mean, Peter, I remember the years before you came back that, like, you would sit in meetings and you wouldn't say, you would pass, like, every week. And I didn't pass every week, but I passed a lot. And I was shy. I was scared to death of some of these guys, these older guys in there now that are some of my dearest friends. The battery's dying. And I had made this decision not too long ago that, well, when I came back in, I was like, I'm gonna know people. Like, I'm gonna put my hand out to the newcomer and introduce myself, because that's my responsibility. And these guys I've been going to meetings with for 20 years, like, I'm gonna go and introduce myself and talk to them and be like, hey, how are you doing? You know, like, I'm not going to be afraid of them anymore. Like, this is my home group. These are the people that I've gone to meetings with. Like, I want to know them. And they have completely embraced me like nobody's business. I mean, seriously embraced me. And some of these 70 and 80-year-old men are some of my dearest friends now, you know? And women, too. The meeting that we go to on Tuesday is, like, the majority of the meeting is older men. And is there somebody in that pet store so late at night? No. And they're fantastic. And they've just, you know, they saved my life. They absolutely saved my life. Let me change the battery really quick. Hold on. Battery. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I drove around and I listened to this lead that night before I went home, because honestly, I was kind of afraid to go home. Do you know what I just read on totallythebomb.com today, which is the website that I get all of my like Starbucks drinks and stuff from? This is not Hobby Lobby, this is Michael's that I just passed, but there was an article that they had on there. They post like 10 articles a day or 5 articles a day or whatever. But one of the articles that they had said, do you know why Hobby Lobby doesn't sell Halloween stuff? And it said that somebody had asked them last year, and Hobby Lobby employees said it was because of their religious affiliation, did not believe in like the history of Halloween, that it was like against their religious beliefs. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, so wonder if they're owned by the same company as Chick-fil-A. Just wondering. Anyway, so I drove around and I listened to this lead, this girl talking about like, you really need to get involved. Well, no. Okay, I listened to 2 leads that night. So I listened to this lead of this girl talking about you really need to get involved, and like, everything she said made it sound so simple, you know? Like, everything I didn't do, that I had done like my first couple years sober, but then I hadn't done after that. Like, I just kind of fallen into being, you know, complacent and lazy. Like, those were the things I needed to be doing. Introducing myself to the newcomer, to be working with others, to be fellowshipping, to be, you know, in the text and reading, not just when it was convenient, but like all the time, you know? To be of service to others, to work steps, to have a sponsor, you know, all these things that I wasn't doing. Like, I mean, I was doing bare minimum, you know. I had a sponsor, and I called my sponsor when I needed something kind of a lot, you know, but like nothing like today. Like, I call my sponsor like all the time today. Like, I got her on speed dial, you know. She's one of my dearest friends. I love her to death. She, you know, saved my life like all these other people have. But anyway, this California burger, I'm wondering if they're going to have anything. This used to be at Long John Silver's. I wonder if they're going to have anything for vegetarians there. But anyway, and then I listened to this other lead, and it was this woman that had gotten sober, and like her whole family, when she got sober, like kids, husband, everything, they all got in recovery as well, like in sister programs, like family programs, because 12-step programs also have sister family programs. People ask me a lot, what can I do for my spouse or my partner or my friend or my mom or whoever that's sober? You can go to a sister program like Al-Anon or Nar-Anon. So Al-Anon is a 12-step program for friends and family members of alcoholics. Addicts of addicts as well are probably welcome there. And then Nar-Anon, which is not as common, or Nar-Anon, is for friends and family members of addicts. But I think of both are welcome, you know, both places. So anyway, and then there's all kinds of other sister programs as well, and like Alateen and things like that. But so she had talked about how like her whole family got involved, and that like she had to make drastic changes, you know, in her life. And yet here I am again in my car driving around in this snowy weather on a January night, terrified to go home, because I'm like, if I tell my husband that I'm not going out anymore and that I'm going back to meetings and I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to lose my husband. And I don't know what it was. I don't know where it came from. I really don't. But God came through for me somehow that night, because I was, and I don't mean this in any disrespect towards my husband, and if he was sitting here, he wouldn't take it that way, but I was able to, for the first time since we had been together, to love myself maybe just a little bit more than I loved him, you know, and love myself just a little bit more than I loved us together. And I went home and I sat him down and I said, hey, listen, because in the lead that she had shared, the last woman, they had come home after she got out of treatment, and they went to this conference and stuff, and the whole family was involved in this conference for the whole weekend. They came home, and she said they sat down at the kitchen table and had cookies and milk, and they decided, are we going to do this thing? Are we going to fully commit to this thing? Are we doing it? Are we all in, or are we not? So I had that in my mind, and I came home and I sat my husband down and I said, hey, listen, I'm doing this thing. I need this. I've been lost. I lost myself. I lost my way. And I need this. I got to do this. And two things are either going to happen. I'm either going to get sober and fix myself, and it's going to fix us as well. We're part of us. Or I'm going to get sober and fix myself. Get sober by meaning working a program and all that stuff. I already was sober as far as not drinking. I just want to clarify that, because I know there's going to be somebody out there that's going to be like, oh, Peter said he's been sober for all these years, and now he's saying, no. I've been consistently sober for 26 and a half years plus at this point. Or I said I was gonna get sober, fix myself, and we weren't gonna make it. But either way, I was gonna be okay. And that I loved him, and I knew that he was gonna be okay, but I was gonna be okay. I had to take care of myself. For this first time in a long time, I had to be selfish and take care of myself and get healthy. And, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and he said, babe, I'm here for you. Whatever you need. I'm more than willing to do whatever you need me to do. And he was 100% supportive. Unbelievably supportive. And has been ever since, anything that I've asked him to do. And has educated himself on stuff, and always is when we go out together or whatever, he's like, do you care if I have a couple drinks tonight? And I'm like, no. At the point where I'm at, well, if I didn't, during that period of emotional sobriety, that's a different thing. But at my point where I'm at, they tell us that there becomes a point where it's not about the alcohol, right? So, where I'm at, not with time, but the work that I do in sobriety for myself, if I'm craving alcohol today, the issue is a lot deeper than alcohol. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but if I'm craving getting drunk, which I don't know, I can't really honestly think of the last time that I really craved getting drunk. Every once in a while I think, oh, a glass of red wine smells good, or it'd be fun to be able to crack open a PBR or something like that, which nobody that I even know drinks, so I don't know why that sounds good. But because I heard it in a Lana Del Rey song or something like that. Or watched some 70s horror movie where they're drinking PBRs, But every once in a while something like that, but I never think. What was it recently? Somebody was talking about Red Stripe not too long ago, and I used to drink Red Stripe. I used to go to this liquor store actually right up here. I would leave my dad's house and I'd come down here, and I'd stop at this liquor store right up here, and I'd get a pint of Jack Daniels and a 6-pack of Red Stripe. I love those little bottles. That was a starter kit for me going out some nights. Not all the nights, but in the summer, I really liked that. There used to be this bar in Broad Ripple called Kilimanjaro's. I actually ran into my dad and my stepmom there quite a few nights. And they played all reggae music. And on Friday and Saturday nights, you couldn't even walk through it. It was so packed. And they only served Red Stripe beer there. That's how I started drinking it. But anyway, I also liked that Sapporo, that Japanese beer. I also liked 40s. I drank a lot of 40s, Colt 45 and Old English and stuff like that. I loved malt liquor back in the day. It was cheap too. But I don't really think about, I don't really crave getting drunk as much anymore. And like I say, if I'm craving getting drunk, there's something a lot deeper going on with me. You know what I mean? I need to be worried about a lot more than just me wanting to get drunk. What's really off with me, And for a while, when this whole craze of marijuana hit the United States, I mean, I don't feel like it's ever really stopped, like, since I was getting high, but, like, it's so different now. Like, I mean, back in the day, it was like, you know, dime and nickel bags, and, like, half of what you got was such crap, you couldn't even smoke it, you know, it would just pop all over the place with seeds and stems, you know, I mean, that's the truth. And I wasted so much money on seeds and stems in my life. You know, I've seen these pictures on, like, Instagram and stuff where people are holding these buds and stuff, and I'm like, I have never seen anything like that in my entire life. There was nothing like that around back in the day. I mean, it is such, like, this whole culture of its own now of growing it and all these cannabis stores and all this kind of stuff. And when we started, I smoked a lot of weed back in the day. I mean, all the time I was high. I smoked it all the time. I loved it. I've always hated the smell. I think it smells funky. I don't like it. I think it smells dirty. But, which is funny, because Tanya really never smoked it, and she loves the smell of it. Like, we walk by somewhere, and she's just like, oh, I love the smell of weed. I'm like, this is so gross. I can't stand it. I think it smells dirty. But anyway, but I smoked it all the time. All the time. Just like I would make sure that I never ran out of alcohol. Like on a Saturday night, if we were out and the liquor store was getting ready to close, we were leaving. Okay, so I could go to the liquor store or the grocery store before Sunday morning, 2 o'clock in the morning hit, because I wanted to make sure I had alcohol for the next day. That's when you know you're an alcoholic, true story. But the same thing goes with smoking weed. Like, I always had it. We didn't call it weed back in the day, we called it pot, but I made sure I always had it on me, always. And to the point where this is when I knew it was bad with the pot smoking and stuff, because everybody I hung around had it, and so it was always just like, you know, they'd always just be like, you want to get high or whatever? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, you know, they'd whip it out or whatever before we went to a drag show or something. We were always getting high. But this is when I knew it was bad. Was a friend of mine was over, and we were getting ready to go somewhere, and he said something about, like, do you have any pot? And I was like, oh no, I'm out completely. And I had a bunch of it in the other room, and I was like, I'm not giving him my pot. He can get his own pot. But anyway, when this whole thing with, like, marijuana being legalized in our country and stuff started happening, I started getting kind of a little worried about it. I was kind of like, I didn't see it any different than I saw alcohol, but I was kind of like, will my mind try to justify it differently? You know, just like I can't go into a liquor store and buy alcohol, I can't go into a cannabis shop either. Like, I can, but there's no reason for me to be there, you know? We hear stories all the time in the rooms about this guy that goes to buy his cigarettes at the liquor store. Okay, there's no reason to be buying your cigarettes at the liquor store, okay? If you're an alcoholic in recovery, you're gonna eventually get your hair cut, okay? If you go to a barbershop long enough, you're gonna get your hair cut. So, I started getting kind of worried, though, when marijuana, you know, started passing state by state. First of all, Indiana's gonna be one of the very last states that it ever happens in. Because y'all know, like, I believe in the decriminalization of marijuana fully, okay? I totally do. And I don't believe that we need to be imprisoning anybody for it. It's just ridiculous to me. And I think that down the road we'll be using it for all kinds of stuff that we're not using it for today. And I just, like, that's too long of a conversation right now. But, so I don't have any issues with people that want to smoke it. I will say this. I think people, because it's so acceptable and everything, people are like, you can't get physically addicted to marijuana. Yes, you can. I know I was. And I know a lot of people that have been as well. And I know a lot of people that would tell you that they had been and nothing else, just that. They were addicted to smoking pot, you know? And if you're chronically smoking pot all day, every day, chances are you probably have a problem. Whether it is physically addicting or not, you have a problem if you're smoking all day, every day. You know what I mean? You might just want to check into that. That's all I'm saying. Just think about it, okay? But, yeah, I started getting kind of weird about it. Like, when all this, like, you know, was legalized in, you know, California, and then it was Colorado, and all these places. I'm like, oh my God, like, you know. And then, but there was a part of me that really wanted to go to these stores too, you know, and it was like a kid in a candy shop, and I wanted to see what it was all about. And I haven't been to one, and I don't have any plan to go to one, you know. And what I've had to realize is just like alcohol. Like, I cannot drink alcohol successfully. I cannot smoke pot successfully either. It's exactly the same thing. And when I try to convince myself that I can, it's the addict speaking in me. Because the addict wants me to smoke pot. I know that. And I can't do it successfully. So, but I started getting kind of a little worried about it. Like I said, you know, when it first happened, it was like, I hope I can handle this. Like, if it's everywhere, you know, and it is everywhere now. But, interestingly enough, I don't really ever, I don't know if well, I feel like everybody that I know in the entire world knows that I'm sober. So I was like, have I been offered it? I don't think that I've been offered it. I will say this, like, if I was at somebody's house that was like just sitting there openly smoking a joint or a blunt or something, I would probably leave. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't judge them. They can do what they want, but I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with that, and I'm sober, and like, if you respect me, you won't do that in my presence, you know what I mean? Because in Indiana, it is still like, even if it shouldn't be, whatever, it is still illegal, and so that kind of makes me nervous sometimes, but I can't even remember the last time that happened, or anything like that, you know? The other thing I have to remember is, like, you know, same with a sip of alcohol. I really, truly believe this. Even with as having been sober as long as I have, I believe if I had one sip of alcohol, well, you know, okay, well, we won't get into all that tonight, but I do believe that if I had one sip of alcohol, that the way my mind would work as an alcoholic would be, well, you just gave up 26 years. So you might as well go and do exactly what you want to do before you go back in and you get that start over token. And I would use everything that I would get as drunk as I wanted. I would drink all the different kinds of beers, the White Claws, the everything out there that there is that I've never had to try. I tried Xanax. I would do everything, you know, and I wouldn't make it back in. And I know that about myself. I wouldn't make it back in. You know, because a lot of people are like, well, how do you know? Like, you got sober so young, maybe you're not an alcoholic or an addict. Well, the way that I think is completely alcoholic and addict. But even, let's just say if that's not true, I'm not willing to chance it. You know, I'm not willing to risk it or give it up over my need to maybe try a marijuana gummy. It's just not worth it to me. It just really isn't. I can live the rest of my life and never have a marijuana gummy, and I will be just fine, you know? There's a lot of people out there that aren't alcoholics and addicts, and they'll never have a marijuana gummy, and they'll just be just fine too, you know what I mean? And they're not like having to have it, you know what I mean? They're just choosing not to. And, so, I feel like I had to go through the depths of all of that misery to make it to the other side, to know that I needed to reach out for help, and I'm thankful that I did. I'm thankful. You have no idea what it means to me, not just to have a friend like Tanya, not just to have a friend that I've known for 24 plus years, that has been in my life, that's been my heartstone, that's been my, you know, knows everything about me, that's been there through everything for me. The fact that that woman was on the other end of the phone the day that I needed her, because I needed to save my life, and she was there, like, that means everything to me, you know? And it may not sound like a lot to a lot of people, but what if Tanya had gone back out and started drinking again? What if Tanya had started using again? I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have somebody to pick up the phone and call. That's the truth. She's the only lifeline that I had to sobriety. I was only talking to my sponsor when he was calling me at that time, and that was about once a month. I had no lifeline to sobriety, and I know for a fact I wouldn't have reached out to him. If she had not been sober, and this is why it's so important that each and every one of us take responsibility for our own addictions and our own recoveries. If she had not stayed sober, I wouldn't be here today, period. There'd be no point to talk about the marriage or any of that. That would be over. That would be long gone. I wouldn't have a relationship with my mother-in-law. My dad would have checked out long ago, because if I start picking up again, my dad has told me, I don't care if it is 40 years. If you ever pick up again, I am out. Done. Period. End of story. So, you know, I am so proud of her and so thankful for her sobriety, because if it weren't for her sobriety, I wouldn't be here right now. I mean, I just would not be here right now, you know? And that's why, like, I think it's so important that we do what we can each day. Like, and we don't really think about that, do we? That, like, if Tanya hadn't stayed sober, like, I'm not just talking about, like, Tanya and me. I'm talking about with all of us, right? Like, in this world. If Tanya hadn't been sober the day that I needed her to take me to a meeting, I wouldn't be here right now, okay? How would my life look so adversely different? Not to mention her life would look so adversely different if she had gone back out, right? Okay. But think about where you have been at some point in your life when somebody needed you, or where somebody in your life was when you needed them. And that's why it's important for us, each and every one of us, every single day, to work on ourselves so that we can be there when somebody needs us, you know, when they reach out to us. Because you don't ever know when you're going to be needed for something, you know? That, you know, somebody might, the phone might be ringing for you, like, you know, it was for Tanya when I needed her. And I'm forever grateful for that. And I'm forever grateful because I feel like I almost had to lose everything to realize that I really liked the way that I was living wasn't how I wanted to live anyway. And that, I mean, I know that my life seems much more grand and everything because, like, I'm on YouTube and whatever, you know, but it's like, it's not, you guys. It's smaller, and it's weird how it is, but it's like smaller and more simple, and I mean, and I'm doing things that I love to do, like, every day, instead of doing things that I feel like I have to do. And, you know, with just, like, going tonight, like, I wanted to go and be with my husband. Like I said to him on the way home, I said, thanks for letting me go out. He's like, I love when you go out with me, you know? And it's like, I'm doing things that I want to do instead of things that I feel like I have to do, because I never wanted to go out back in the day, you know? And I call the shots today. And, anyway. Somebody out there tonight is watching this vlog, and they're, you know, you've been miserable for a long time. You've been sad and you've been miserable for a long time. And first of all, I would recommend going to talk to somebody professionally. God knows that really helped us, and it helped me individually with the individual sessions. That wasn't my first, nor will it be the last time I ever speak to somebody professionally. But above that, unless what you're dealing with is something very serious, you know, I'm talking about, because my misery was self-imposed misery, you know, it was like, I wasn't willing to change the things in my life to make me feel better. That's the kind of misery I'm talking about. If you're there, make a decision and say, I am going to have the best life in the world. Like, I am going to start every day, even if you don't believe that you deserve it, even if you don't believe that it's yours, okay? Just start saying, I'm going to have it. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to be more peaceful. I'm going to work on the serenity. I'm going to make gratitude lists every day, you know? Just the small stuff. And trust me, over time it'll change. It really will, you know? You don't have to be an addict or an alcoholic and work a 12-step program to get this stuff. You have an easier time if you don't, you know? But you owe it to yourself. Years ago, where am I at on time? Years ago, and I have this saved in my phone. I think it's like the very first note that I have on my phone. And it was on National Public Radio. And they used to do this thing, I think it was on Sundays. And it was called story.org, I think. And they would share these stories about people, you know, and their lives, just little simple stories. It was like 5 or 10 minutes. It was like 5 minutes, I think. In between segments, it was like in between different shows. And this guy on there loved to play piano. This is how I feel about YouTube, you know? This is how I feel about getting to make videos every single day. He loved playing the piano. And after he graduated from college, he lived in New York City, his parents really wanted him to go to get his MBA. He got into some, I can't remember, like NYU or something. He got into some like great MBA program or Columbia or something like that. And they gave him money to go get his MBA, but instead of the money to get his MBA, he took the money, or it was like a graduation gift or something, this money. He took it and he bought like a box truck. And then he would play on the streets in New York City this piano that he got that had, you know, the wheels on the bottom of it. I've told this story before on here many times. And then he ended up saving enough money, and he drove down the East Coast into like Florida, over to like New Orleans. He played like at all these like, you know, he would just play on the side of the street and stuff. Met all these like famous musicians. This was like his dream to like just travel the world and play, you know. And he drove this truck like through Central America. Anyway, it told his whole story. And by the time that they had like caught up with him, he was like in like Rio de Janeiro or something, like, or Argentina or something, somewhere in South America. And he was playing that song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, that, you know, in a world of pure imagination. And on his piano, he had a sign that said, "You owe it to yourself to do something amazing with your life." And I've always remembered that, you know? How we define that, or maybe it was like fantastic or whatever, but how we define that is different to each of us, you know? Maybe to some of you, it's writing a book or acting on Broadway. Maybe to some of you, it's, like I say, you know, being a hostess or a host at Walmart. Maybe some of you, it's being the best sous chef in the world, or the best waiter or waitress in the world, you know, or the best attorney, or who knows, gardener, you know, or the best baker in your neighborhood. Who knows what that means? But to each of us, we owe it to ourselves to do something amazing with our lives, whatever that is, you know? Figure out what that means to you. I've been getting so, like, I've been using this word lately, jazzed. My mom used to use that, but I've been getting so jazzed the last couple days, thinking about possibly starting this, like, horror movie group, you know? And Melissa loves horror movies, and she was the one that introduced me to the horror film festival thing. And so I asked her if she would be interested in doing it. Mel had said that she would be willing to, like, help run the background stuff, and the three of us, I think that would be great doing that, you know? And so I'm thinking about doing that. I've been, like, really excited about all the books I've been reading lately and stuff. Those are not huge deal things, right? But those are things that make me happy. And those are things that I feel like make me have this amazing life experience. So don't forget that. You owe it to yourself to do something amazing with your life. Ask yourself what that is, what that means to you. And I am going to get off here now, and I'm going to listen to my audiobook. I vlogged for almost an hour and a half tonight. And I went all over the place. I went a little deep tonight, didn't it? Do you guys like the more superficial vlogs, or not superficial, like, you know, but like in just telling like lighthearted stories, or do you like when I talk a little bit more like stuff like this with my life? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section below, and if you made it this far, put an orange emoji, whatever kind of orange emoji you want, put it in the comment section below. Isn't it so funny? Like, oh my God, I was trying to finish the vlog before I got to, this is like my old school outro days. I was trying to finish my vlog before the battery died, but it just died. Anyway, isn't it so funny that like, well, maybe not 10 years ago, but like 15 years ago, I never would have even known, or most of us wouldn't have known the word emoji. And now it's like everyday common like knowledge word, emoji. Or that like 15 years ago, somebody would have said to me that I would like text out, first of all, that I would text, right? As often as I do, but I would text out like LOL like 5 times a day to different people. I always text LOL when I don't know what to say. Do you guys ever do that? When somebody texts you something and you're like, oh, LOL. That's always what I say when I don't really know what to say to anybody. Anyway, if you've made it this far, put an orange emoji in the comment section below. If nobody else is, whatever orange emoji you want, I don't care. If nobody, but clowns are my favorite. Not my favorite emoji of life, but they have some orange in them, don't they? Anyway, I just have to tell you guys something that happened on this road one night when I was driving by here, listening to an audiobook. There was a rabbit on the side of the road, but it wasn't just like a normal like bunny rabbit. It was like a flopsy wopsy rabbit. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I was like, seriously, like I was like driving by and I saw, it was like sitting kind of into the woods a little bit, eating something. And I was like, am I really seeing this, or am I living in a fairy tale right now? I'm like on this like road where if you go down that way, it goes to the Fox Hollow Farms serial killer mansion. So anyway, I saw this like rabbit that literally looked like the Velveteen Rabbit or something. It had like the big long ears. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Are those wild there's wild rabbits like that? Or did somebody have one of those as a pet and they like set it free or something? I was like, and it was big too. It was like this big. Like, no lie, you guys, it was this big, and it had like these, I was like, am I like in a fairy tale right now or something? Like, this is so, I think I already just said that. But I was like, this is so weird, this rabbit on the side of the road, and I like turned around and I came back and it was gone. I was like, did I really see that? But anyway, have you guys ever seen those rabbits like in the wild? Am I crazy? I kind of think maybe like somebody like let it go when it was like younger, you know what I mean? It was a beautiful rabbit. Anyway, what's that? The tricks are for kids. You funny rabbit, tricks are for kids. What's the saying? Anyway, it doesn't matter. If nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Be kind to one another, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And for anybody out there that needs to hear it, well, I haven't even finished the rest of it yet. So anyway, I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya. And for anybody else that needs to hear it out there, Troy, Karen, any of you? One more, I love you. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya.